Welcome back to Houston Life. It is time now for our H-Town Sitdown.
Let's meet today's guest.
He's an innate storyteller and one of the most recognizable faces in the local comedy scene. Ali Siddiq has racked up millions of views with his specials on Comedy Central, and in 2019, he was a finalist on NBC's competition, Bring the Funny. He recently released on YouTube his new stand-up, The Domino Effect. It's an honest look at his troubled adolescence in Houston with a powerful message for a new generation. And today, he's joining our H-Town Sitdown.
And friend of Houston Life, Ali Siddiq, come on out. It's so great to have you back. Great to see you.
Yeah,
How are you?
Great to see you.
I'm doing well.
What's up?
I'm all good, man. It's all
Take a
good.
seat. It's so great to have you back, and let's talk about Domino Effect before we bring everybody. We want to bring everybody up to date. This was filmed here in Houston, right?
Yes, Houston Improv.
Okay, and so this takes a look at kind of where it all started. Your story,
Yes.
not necessarily funny, but you put that the comedy act. It's your life story, and how you kind of
Funny.
a little funny.
Growing up on the Southwest Side, with my father and my mom, going back and forth from house to house.
Yeah.
And my experiences, and going through how everybody that gets in a little compromised position don't come from a bad family. You just outside sometimes. You just hang with the wrong people. My mother, had a pretty good job, and I was just outside hanging with the wrong people, got caught up in some things, and, went through some trials and tribulations, getting ready for Domino Effect 2 now.
And the trials and tribulations, Ali, this is something that you have used as material in your stand-up routines. And really, I mean, we always say truth is stranger than fiction.
Right.
But do you think that your honesty is one of the reasons why audiences connect with you so well?
I think that's the part of it, that they can come and look at me and look at parts of their life and say, well, I could have did this, or I made this mistake, but I'm not of my mistakes. That's the thing. A lot of people live in their mistakes. I made them. I talk about them, I move on from them, and I may make another mistake. So how do I go through it? How do I navigate through these things? I may have kids that may make these mistakes, because most of us have become parents now from that era. And how much are we paying attention to our kids? My mother was working so much that she couldn't pay attention. She didn't know that I had $10,000 in a shoebox. Maybe you might want to start going through your kids' shoe boxes and see what's in there. So those are the lessons that happen when you honestly look back at your life and you say, these are the mistakes that I made. And I made these mistakes. I didn't have enough information at the time to even make these decisions. At 10, why would you ask me if I want to stay with my dad? I'm basing this on fun. I have no,
Right.
This is based on nothing else. But he was fun the last time I was with him. Yes, I want to go live with him.
Right.
But this man didn't know how to parent. God bless him. He was doing what he knew. And so looking back, I don't have any ill feelings towards my parents' mistakes. A lot of kids, I talk to children all the time, and I talk to some adults. They still upset with their parents about things that happened when they was a child. My mother was 20. She's gonna make some mistakes. She got 2 kids, she's 20.
Yeah.
My father's gonna make some mistakes. He didn't know what he was doing. My mother was way better than him. She knew one thing, to feed us.
Right.
Well, that's a start.
At least, we're gonna start with that. I'm gonna feed them.
Right. Well, I think what's great is even incarcerated, you found your humor.
Yes.
And that was really, I don't know if, was it a survival mode, or was the only way really you knew how to kind of put one day behind you?
Actually, I just look at things different. I just took a moment, because I was living like everybody else when I first got there.
Yeah.
First 2 years in prison, I probably had 6 fights. And then I'm looking back on it like, why was I even fighting? And then it took somebody more experienced that been there a long time, like, hey, you can't really keep doing it like this. You
never gonna survive.
You may be winning all these fights, but are you going back to the world like that? Are you going back to the world to fight? And when people give you information, it's your job to think about it and kind of contemplate and go through it and see how you can acclimate that to your life. And so that's what I do. I just tell these stories about things, and hopefully people get something out of it, and children look at it like, hey man, I don't have to do this. I don't have to be a part of the pack. I can
Right.
go solo, because that's what I am. I'm a solo act now. I could have stayed a solo. I could have been a solo act. I could have been Justin Timberlake. You know?
You still can.
You still can.
Hey, Ali, to refresh our viewers' memories, so you were mentioning being in prison and fighting with the inmates. At what point did the shift happen? Because you started telling jokes and making people laugh, and I can assume that there might have been this awakening, like, hey, there's something to this.
This guy named Rick, he asked me one day, he was like, hey, what you gonna do when you get out? I said, man, I've been thinking about it. I think I'm gonna be a comedian. And he was like, he said he had been there for years. He said, man, I've heard a lot of people say what they're gonna do. I never believed anybody until you just said that. He said, 'cause I can see it. And he kind of, when he saw it, because I said it, and I'm like, yeah, somebody else believe in what, I'm thinking. And when I got out, I was focused just only on doing stand-up. Everything I did, from the job, from where I was hanging out, where I lived, it was centered around the comedy club. How could I get to the comedy club? I needed clothes, so I went to work at a men's apparel store so I could have clothes to go on stage to look presentable. I worked in the Sunglass Hut in the middle of the kiosk, and so I would sell people glasses and by using humor. Come on, man, you need some glasses to go with them shoes. And so I'm talking to people, just getting prepped to go on stage to be able to talk to people about anything.
Right.
So I think that's the main thing. To be able to communicate stops a lot of things. Even when I get pulled over, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going into communication mode. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? What did I do? Or what are you look? I just think being able to communicate and say something humorous opens up a path for any conversation.
For sure. And I think, too, laughter comes in a form of healing, It does a lot for moving on, and it also does a lot for people in the moment to forget about their own deal, their own problems that are going on, to be able to laugh.
And with me, I don't even want you to forget. I want you to laugh at those moments that were hard, because we all have to. I think people understand when it comes to the next one I'm shooting, when I come to Improv in September, it's the Domino Effect, it's the exit, it's the second part of this. And it's some really hard parts in there, and I'm touching on now about how we grow up and not being able to deal with grief. Mm-hmm. Like you never talk about it. So when it happens, people go into these spirals. It damaged my family when I lost my little sister, because we didn't know how to process it. It's like, I'm 18, my mother, she's 38, you losing your kid, my sister it's all this, how do we process these moments? And we look at it, and some of these moments you can laugh at, some of these moments you get a little more understanding. Mm-hmm. But it's not burying the moment.
Right.
And I think too many times people try to bury the moment or put a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. If you're dealing with something, let's talk about it and say what it is, because I may have the same experience, but I can laugh at it, or tell you the funny parts in it, or when you finish saying it, like my friends say all the time, he'll say something like, that was pretty hard, though. And the way he says it, I was like, oh, that's great. 'Cause it brings me out of the moment to the laughter, like, it was pretty hard. But the number one thing we have to remember, no matter what you went through in life, any of us, we are perfect in survival. We have all survived whatever you've ever been through. You're perfect in survival. So if you think about how to survive something, if my car breaks down and we gotta walk 5 miles, we gonna talk about while we walking. It's gonna be some laughter, and we probably be mad. It's gonna be, but it's the
tears.
communication. And then once we made it, like, remember we walked that 5 miles.
Right.
So I think that's the best way to deal with things and not try to sweep them under the rug. And hopefully my comedy constantly brings that out of people. I think the Domino Effect is a great start to everything that I want to do in my career. I want people to look back and say, this whole thing was a message of healing. Mm-hmm. Even with myself, I want to look back at my work and be like, I healed myself in the course of helping other people.
That's super cool. Ali Siddiq, you are making us laugh. You are always so real. By the way, Ali Siddiq Live, September 22nd through the 25th. There's the info on your screen. This is all happening at the Houston Improv. You do have to be 18 and over to attend. It's going to be a good time, so mark your calendars.
And do appreciate you coming in today.
Oh, thank you.
Always great to catch up with you.
I feel so underdressed. Y'all look so nice.
No,
What are you talking about?
You look great. We appreciate it. Listen, Ali Siddiq's Domino Effect available right now. Get it on YouTube for a link to connect with him. Swing by our website, HoustonLife.tv. Click on the Scene On section of the website.